everyone, it's Liz again, and I'm so happy that you're joining me today on this week's live over here on Annie's YouTube channel. So, as everyone knows, I'm here live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So, if you are joining me today, say hello in the chat. Let me know what you're working on, and if you have any questions or anything like that, you can put those in the chat. So I usually give a couple minutes for people to join, and while we are waiting, I just wanted to let everyone know that since we've all been home at this time, I am just really thankful that I have you guys to kind of talk to, since I've been stuck at home all this time, and I know you've been stuck at home all this time. So I look forward to these Wednesday videos so I can chat with people who like to crochet also. Instead of, everybody in my house who doesn't really care when I start talking about stitches and granny squares and things. So I want to tell everyone thank you for joining me. And if you're not here joining me live, you can always watch the replay. But if you are live, I would love for you to say hello in the chat. So what I want to show you today is something really fun. It's the granny square slippers. And I'm going to show you, this is my printout. As you guys know, I don't have a color printer, but I want to show you those on my iPad so you can see how they are in color. So this is from a special publication. So if you're a subscriber to Crochet World, you'll get your regular magazine every other month. So you'll get one in June, and then you'll get another one in August. But they also do twice a year special publication issues. So that's like this one is Glorious Granny Square. So sometimes it's pineapple, sometimes it's for the home. So it's usually just like a special collection. And the one that we're talking about today is called Glorious Granny Squares. And you've got over 40 designs, granny square designs in this one. And I love granny squares. They're just a fun, classic crochet, like one of those things that everybody learns first when they first learn how to crochet. And these are these really cute and fun slippers that I thought I would make for you guys and show you how to put these together. Aren't those fun? So you can download, I'll put the link in the description, but if you want to get this special publication, Glorious Granny Squares, you can just download it right from Annie's and then save it on your computer. You don't have to go out to the store, because I know we're not all really doing that. And the link is there in the description, so if you want to follow along. Now let me show you mine. So I made one slipper. So this is how it looks. Isn't this adorable? So basically you just make 6 of these squares for each slipper, so 12 total, and then you just seam them together in sort of an interesting way. And then that's how it looks. This is the side, this is the back, and when your foot, and this is the front. When your foot is in it, it looks really cute, very cute. So we're going to put one of these together. So I started out with 6 squares. The first thing you do and I'm going to show you how to make the square. Once you make the square, you put them all together like this. So you do these 4. I did this ahead of time because this is not the hard part. So just seaming these 4 together, I did a slip stitch seam right here and right here. And that's pretty simple. But I am going to show you how to put the top together, because that's a little difficult. And I'm going to show you how to make the square. So the square has a popcorn stitch in it. So if you don't know how to do a popcorn stitch, today's your lucky day. I'm going to show you how to do a popcorn stitch. So now that I have some people here, I'm going to move my phone and jump right into the tutorial, okay? We're going to make a whole one of these squares, and then we're going to put together our slipper. So I'll just move my phone here. Okay. And if you hear little voices as usual, the kids are home from school, unfortunately. Usually it works out well with these videos because my kiddos are at school, but they are not these past few weeks. But they've been pretty good about not being too loud while I'm doing videos. Okay, so hopefully you can see me okay. Here's our square. And here's what I was showing you. Once you made your 6, you can seam together at the middle. Hold on, let me move my phone a little bit so it doesn't tip over. There we go. That should be more stable. Okay, so we're gonna start with, let's start with this color. And I'm using a worsted weight yarn, and this is a 4mm hook. So the way this pattern is written, you will use a different size hook for your squares. So if you need a larger size, you'll use a larger hook, and if you need a smaller size, you'll use a smaller hook. So your square is going to just come out a little, you know, smaller or larger. And we start with a chain 4, and then to join this ring, we're just going to go into the first chain and slip stitch that together. And that makes a little ring. Now we're going to work directly into this ring, and we're going to start with a chain of 3, and that counts as our first double crochet. So now this is a tiny ring, but you can see the inside of it right there. So we're going to do 1 and 2 double crochets into that ring. Now we're going to make a corner, and that's a chain 2, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets into the ring. And then we're going to chain 2 for another corner, and then another 3 double crochets. And double crochet is just yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That's a pretty basic one that everybody knows. But just in case you're here and you are a beginner. Okay, so now you can see I've got my 2 corners, and that's another corner. And we do our last group of 3 double crochets. And then our chain 2 to make our last corner. And then you're going to count up 1, 2, 3, the third chain from the beginning chain 3 that you made, and then you're just going to slip stitch right into there. And there you can see you've got 4 corners. So you see we started with a ring and we've already got a square. And we're going to fasten off this color and just pull that through. Now I'm going to show you how to do the popcorn stitch, because this next round, oh, not this color, this next round consists of popcorn stitches. And you can do a popcorn stitch with as many or as few, well, I would say at least 3 double crochets for it to look like a popcorn, but you can do it with 5 or 7 double crochets. And let me show you what that looks like. So first we fastened off our first color, and we're just going to join with a slip stitch into a corner. So it doesn't matter which corner, you just join in any corner, okay? And then you're going to chain up 3 to make your double crochet. And then you're going to work 2 more double crochets. So this is similar to what we just did. And this is a corner, so we're going to do 2 popcorns in the corner. But I'm going to show you, this is the beginning one. So now, to make the popcorn, you're going to pull this loop up a little bit so you don't lose it. Pull your hook out. And then you're going to count up to that 3rd double crochet again, 1, 2, 3, and then insert your hook under, I like to get under the 2, okay? So now this is where you stopped, and you're going to take your hook out and go back to where you started. And then you're going to grab this loop, so pull it down so you can grab it. And now you've got that loop on your hook, and you simply pull. I lost it, hold on. Come back here, you. Grab that loop and just pull it through as a slip stitch. The beginning one is a little bit more tough because you're starting with that chain 3 rather than a double crochet. But let me show you that again. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And I've got my phone right in front of me, you guys, so if you pop in, say hello, or if you have any questions about this, say hello, or ask a question. Okay, so now I've got my 3 double crochets. So I pulled my hook out. I'm going to go into that first double crochet that I made, and I'm going to grab that loop and just pull it through. See how there's my popcorn? It's sort of a bobble-ish type of thing. Then I'm going to chain 2. Now this is my side, okay? That was my corner. I worked both of those popcorns into that corner. You always have to increase in the corners. So you need more stitches in the corners in order to make it a square or a circle or whatever it is, in order for it to be flat. Because if you put the same amount of stitches and don't increase in the corners, it's just going to be like a cylinder. So now we're going to go into the middle stitch here, and we're going to do our popcorn stitch. And I'm going to show you, because this is a smaller popcorn stitch, because it's for a slipper, so you don't want your foot to be like, you know, have a big bobble on it when you're walking. But I want to show you what a larger popcorn stitch looks like. So let's see. So now I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets. And if I go into there and I pull my loop through, you see how that one really kind of looks like a, it looks like a piece of popped popcorn. So it looks nice and puffy when you do more stitches. And this is like popcorn stitch 101. I want to show you another fun thing. So when you go in from front to back and pull that loop, your popcorn is going to stick out this way. But if you're doing something in rows where you don't want to work like an alternate row in between, you just want to do all popcorn stitches, when you turn, you can go from back to front in order to keep your popcorn facing the same direction, because if you do it on the next row, it's going to face in like that. So if you want to keep them all facing the same direction, you can go in, instead of going front to back, go back to front, and wait, how did I? And then have it pop out that way. So you can go either way. Okay, so let's do our, we only have 3 for this pattern, so let's get back to 3. And then I'm going to grab this and then work my chain 2. And now we're going to do a corner again. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. Pull up that loop so you don't lose it. Go in front to back and grab your yarn, slip stitch it through, chain 2, and remember we're in the corner still because we're going to do 2 popcorns in each corner. Grab my loop, slip stitch it through. Popcorns are really fun once you learn how to do them. They're similar to a bobble but worked differently. So they have a little bit of a different look and a different texture. And once you learn how to do them, they're fun. They're a fun little texture to add to pillows and afghans and things like that. And they're really cute on these slippers. These slippers have a really cute, like classic granny square look. I saw a lot of people, when I posted pictures of these, a lot of people said, oh, my grandmother made those when I was a kid, or they know that their grandmother had these slippers. So this is like a fun vintage crochet. I like this sort of vintage crochet things. Okay, so now I'm in the corner. I'm gonna do another popcorn. And this pattern only has, I think, four rounds, so it's pretty simple. And like I said, if you need it larger, you just use a larger hook. The pattern would be the same. And of course, you can use any color you want. I was going to try to do it in all solid, but the way it's written, you have to fasten off anyway, because you're not really like continuing from where you are. Like you fasten off and then you start in a new corner. So you pretty much have to fasten off anyway. The only reason I would have kept it solid was so I didn't have to weave in all those ends when I change colors. But the way this pattern is written, you're going to have to fasten off anyway. So I figured I may as well do it with alternate colors. I don't love weaving in ends. I'm sure we all feel that way. Okay, so I'm almost done with all my popcorns. I just did a bunch, so pull that out. So I think if you watch this video, you'll be a popcorn pro. It's pretty easy. And then I'm on my last stitch. So that's my side, the side of my square. So we're going into that middle double crochet. Okay, and then I'm going to go into the first double crochet I made, and then just slip stitch that loop through. Now I'm on my last chain 2, and then I'm simply going to join to the beginning popcorn stitch that I made. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch. So now when I work the next color, you start in a corner, so you have to fasten off anyway. Okay, so just pull through there. And I've been trying to work over my little tails, so that way I don't have too much to weave in. So here's my little tail. I'm going to try to work over that. Okay, so I'm going to start in, it doesn't matter what corner you start in, just make sure you start in a corner. So for the next round, I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm just going to work my first single crochet. I'm going to move that over because I have to work in a bunch of stitches into this corner. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 single crochets, and then I'm going to do a chain 2. And 1, 2, 3 single crochets. Now I'm going to skip the popcorn and work into the chain 2 space here. So we're working on the sides. So for the sides, we just do 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Okay, now to the next corner, and this is where I fastened off. So I'm going to try to work over that tail. So 1, 2, 3 single crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more single crochets for the corner. 1, 2, 3. Okay, here's my tail. Now here's my next chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3 single crochets in that chain 2 space. Same thing in the next one. where's my corner here? Okay, so here's my corner. Oh, you know what? Look what I did. This was not a corner and I made it a corner. So now it's a little wonky. And you'll see if you make a mistake like that. It'll tell you. It'll be kind of wonky and lopsided. So you just pull that back. And so this is not the corner. This is the corner. So we're just going to do 3 single crochets into here. And now I work my corner. So I just made the wrong part a corner. And it can be hard to tell because the popcorns, I'm using the smaller hook, so I think if you use the larger hook, your popcorns will be spread out a little bit more, but mine seem to be squished together pretty good because I'm making the smallest size. And that's okay because see how it's sort of curling a little bit? That's okay because you can either block it or just stretch it out a little bit. I didn't even block these, I just stretched them out a little bit and they got nice and flat. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, now there's a corner. And you can see I'm working over that tail. So the corner is 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 1, 2, 3. And I'm almost done with this square, and then I'm going to show you how to join these all together to make this slipper. So we're just basically now we're doing the little border. Okay, here's another corner. We're making this nice and square. Chain 2, another 3 single crochet in that corner. Remember, you always have to turn the corner when you're working a flat piece like this. When you're working in the round, but you want your piece to be flat. 1, 2, 3. And here's my last chain space. 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And then slip stitch to join. And you can I'm trying not to be here too long for you guys because I know it might get a little boring watching me do just a bunch of single crochets. But if you really want to make your edges look really nice, then do that invisible join. And I showed you that, I think it was last week I did a tutorial when I did the Princess Puff Stitch Afghan block. I showed you how to do an invisible join, which makes it look nice and you can't even tell where you joined. So I would use that for your slippers when you work these. Okay, so now we're joining with our last color and we're joining again in the corner, and we're just going to do 2 single crochets in that corner this time. And then we're simply going to work a single crochet in each single crochet that we just made. And this is our border that we will seam together. So I made all the borders the same color. I sort of made the granny squares different colors. I mean, I used the same colors, but I alternated, you know, where I put them just to make it look fun. But I did all the borders the same color, so the borders match up. But you can do it however you want, with as many colors as you want. And that's what's fun about granny squares. You can always modify them, make them bigger with larger yarn and hook, or thicker yarn and hook, I should say. Make them smaller with fingering weight yarn and a smaller hook. Do them solid, do them different colors. You've got endless granny square possibilities. So remember, I'm turning the corner, so I'm going to do 2 double crochet in the corner, and I'm working over this tail again. And then 1 single in each of the singles. And if you're watching me live, I want to say thank you for being here. And I know you want to see how I'm putting this together, and I promise I'm getting there. Just got to finish this row. And if you're watching the replay, you can always fast forward a little bit if you already know how to make single crochets and you don't feel like watching me go around. But I'm almost there, you guys. So, and I want you to get really the full how to make this square. And this is just one of the patterns from that special publication. There's at least 40 in there, lots of Afghans, a couple garments, a nice mix of everything. So then we're just going to join here, and see how it looks a little like wonky because it's tight, but then all I did was just sort of stretch it out a little bit. You can definitely block this. I blocked the first ones and it turned out nicely, but see, pretty flat. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of these. I didn't weave them in, but I'm sure you don't want to watch me weaving in ends. You know how to do that. Okay. Now here's what I was working on. So remember I said we make a total of 12, and that's for both slippers. So we're going to make 6 and 6. And you can join these however you like. The pattern says to sew them together, but I didn't feel like sewing mine together, so I'm doing this join that I use a lot. It's just a slip stitch join, and I go into the stitch that's furthest from me on that row, and then the stitch that's closest on that row. So the loop, I should say, not the stitch, the loop. So you're going in the back loop of this panel, and you're going in the front loop of the other panel, and that just makes a nice sort of flatter slip stitch seam rather than going into both loops. Okay, so this is how you start it out. You start out with put these 4 together to make a square. And then, to make it look like this slipper, I'm going to turn it upside down. These are going to go like this. Then this piece is going to go like this. And looking for my pins. Where did I put my pins? Here's my pins. So I highly suggest that you pin these together, because I started, when I did this, I started seaming or slip stitch seaming a couple times, and I was going in the wrong direction, because it's kind of hard to tell which direction to go into if it's not already pinned down for you. So try to pin it down, that way you know you're doing it right, okay? So then I'm just going to go from here around and there with a slip stitch seam. So I'm going to use the gray so you can see this better. But normally you would use the same color so you don't really see your seam very well. Okay, so now the way I do it is I just join I just join my yarn here, like that, with a slip stitch. And then I just grab the back loop of the panel that's closest to me in the front loop of the panel that's furthest from me, and then I just slip stitch those together. And like I said, you can do this with your yarn needle if you want to just sew it in, or you can do this slip stitch seam, or really any other seam that you like. You can do a whip stitch, a mattress seam. But this is just a quick slip stitch seam. There's a lot of different ways to seam in crochet, and granny squares especially, there's a few different ways too. You can always just sew them together, but if you're making like a big blanket, a big Afghan, that's a lot of sewing and a lot of ends to weave in, and that's not really too fun for me. So, okay, so now I'm going to go around here. So when I make granny squares, I like to do the join as you go technique. And I'm working on going to this one, I'm working on a really pretty, it's like a cardigan, like a long cardigan, that's made of all granny squares. And it's called the Granny Square Car Coat. And when I'm finished, I'm going to show everybody, because it's such a beautiful coat, and you start out by making a lot of little granny squares, and then you don't have to seam them all together. Once you've made all your squares, you just do a join as you go technique with the black yarn, and then you've got this really pretty classic granny square coat. Okay. And this is probably not, I'm not really going very even here, but I don't want to. This is kind of a long process, so I'm trying to do it quickly. And now you see I'm just going over the top, but of course you would make your seam nice and neat and nice and tight so it doesn't come out. And this is an acrylic yarn, 100% acrylic, worsted weight. This is called Premium Anti-Pilling. So this is a good yarn to use for this, because it's soft but sturdy. It almost has like a silky sort of sheen to it. It's very nice for an acrylic. But it's still pretty durable and sturdy for these slippers. And I don't know about you, but I've made crochet slippers before, and they tend to not do very well in the washing machine. I actually put them in the washing machine to see how they would turn out. Not great. So I would hand wash these. Okay, now I'm just going to come back down this way, and that's going to be the front of my slipper. Yeah, so I would hand wash these, and also another thing you can do, because I had a couple pairs of slippers that I made, crochet slippers, and I wore them all the time because they were super squishy and comfy. And the bottom started wearing out, so like I got these giant holes in the bottoms just from walking around on my tile floor and whatnot. So what you can do, get back here, lost this guy. What you can do for slippers is you can take some puffy paint and just sort of put a little bit puffy paint, or it's called t-shirt paint. It's that paint that you make like decorative t-shirts with for kids and stuff. It's kind of a craft store staple. I mean, you can get it at any craft store. And you just squeeze that on the bottom, and that makes it like a little bit of a non-stick surface, so you don't slide around if you have tile floor, and it will keep the bottom from sort of coming apart as easily. Same with socks. Sometimes when you do crochet socks, they come apart on the bottoms. Okay, so, and then you would just keep going so these all come together nicely, and of course you would do it a little bit neater than I did, and then you can join these all together and then weave in the ends. And you see, that's the front of your slipper. And this is the bottom. And then this last piece just goes just like that. So it kind of all comes together like this, and then you keep this flap open so you get your foot in there. So then you would just put the last piece right there, just seam that around here, and you are done. And you've got these adorable little granny square slippers. So like I said, this pattern is in Glorious Granny Squares, and that is, there's a link in the description so you can order yours. And I'm gonna flip my phone and say goodbye to everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this little stitch tutorial. I liked how these granny square slippers came together, and I hope you liked those too. So make sure you join me every Wednesday at 1 p.m. here on Annie's YouTube channel for another tutorial. And make sure you go over to the Annie's Facebook page if you're looking for a group. You can join the group, and there's lots of, if you have questions or just want to talk to other crocheters, that's a lot of fun too. So thanks everyone for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.